Hi, it's Sarah here and welcome to my channel. In this video, I am doing my first mid-year book tag and I am very excited because I have read 38 books this year and I just want to show you all the different books that I've read and all the different categories, so we're going to get right into it. So first off, I have questions from a mix of different YouTubers. I'm going to list them down here below, and some of them I just made up on my own. So I have my top 3 favorite books that I've read so far this year. These are all 5 stars / could be more than 5 stars. And I couldn't choose just one, so I had to choose 3. So the first one that I have is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is a popular book for good reason. It has been trending on TikTok, I think, for a couple years, but obviously this is my first year really reading. And I didn't really expect it to be 5 stars. Not that I didn't expect it to be good. I just didn't really know what to expect. I'd heard it was really good, and that's about it. This was so amazing. It's a historical fiction book about a woman who is very famous and very well known for being an actress, but also for having 7 different husbands. And I think it's like the 50s, 60s. It starts in the 50s, maybe, something like that. And basically, you go through her story of why she's had so many different husbands, how she became an actress, why people love her, why she is so well known, all these kinds of different things. You see love, you see heartbreak. I definitely cried in this book. There is just so many different things that happened that I didn't expect, and I loved it. Next up, we have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and this is a romance book. It's part of a standalone trilogy. It's the first one in the standalone trilogy, which just means that each book has their own story and their own main characters, but they all kind of interconnect in the same world. So this is the first one, and I love the main characters, Alexis and Daniel, and the way that they meet. She basically gets stuck in a small town. Her car breaks down. I think it's her tire. I don't even remember what it is now. Her car breaks down on the side of the road, and then this man comes and pulls up next to her and helps her change her flat or whatever it is. And then she's really hungry because she's going to have a couple hours till she gets home. And so she goes to the only restaurant that's open in town, which is at the VFW. And she sees him there. And then from there, a romance starts to blossom. And it's one of those things where she's going back every weekend that she can. They're thinking about each other all the time. They're just very mature. And like, she's in her upper 30s, he's in his upper 20s. The romance is just great. There's a little bit of smut, and I love it. And also, I forgot to say, the other thing I really love about this is I love the town that it's based in. It's a really small town. Half the restaurants are closed, half the businesses are closed half the year because it's really more of a touristy town. And it's like kind of like a little bit of a magical town, and it's really special and sweet, and I loved the whole idea of this book. My third favorite is A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in A Court of Thorns and Roses series, ACOTAR. I actually did a whole video on reading this series, and so if you want to go check that out, be sure to click that link above. I loved this book so much, just like so many other people do. This is often most people's favorite book in the series, which it was my favorite book in the series. And I love the romance in it. I love the story. I love the setting for sure. I love the characters. I love the kind of like build up to the war, all that different kind of stuff there. At the end, it's extremely intense. You're like excited to get into the next one. I just could not put this book down. Next up is a book that you have been putting off, and for me, that is The Body Keeps the Score. This is a book that my therapist recommended to me because I've been doing EMDR therapy, and I'm not going to go into all of what EMDR is. If you're curious, you can go look it up. It's definitely been working really well for me. But she recommended this book to me, and it's about trauma, and that's what EMDR therapy is about trauma. It's about healing from trauma, that kind of stuff. And I think it would be a really good book to read, but I think it's gonna be one that's definitely a lot more thinking. I might make notes on it, all the different kind of stuff, and it's not something I've wanted to get into yet. It's kind of small words. You probably can't really tell, but the words are kind of small, and it's not like that big by any means. It's like 300 something pages, 358 pages. So it's not bad, but it's something that I think I'm going to wait and read when I'm officially ready to read it. My newest fictional crush is Resend from A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I just love the ACOTAR series and I love him. It is so common for people to love him as well. If you've read the series, you will know, you will also probably love him. I do love his best friends as well, Cassian and Azriel, but Rhys is just a different breed. He's just a man who actually reminds me a lot of my husband, which is a very good thing, but he is very like supportive. He's very much like, I want you to do what is happy, like what makes you happy. I want to do what's best for you. If you want to be a strong, independent woman, you go and do that. If you want to be a housewife, you do that. If you, whatever it is, like he's just an amazing person. He's a great leader. He's fun. He knows how to be serious. He knows how to also be a little bit of a trickster, and he can manipulate people if he wants to, but I think it's the idea that he's truly a good person at heart, and he just knows how to do all the rest. The next section is what has been the biggest surprise, and I have two for this one. So first off, we have The Paradise Problem. This has been a very popular book because it just came out, I think, in May of this year. So this book just surprised me in a lot of ways. I just thought it might be a sweet summery romance, and I thought the plot might be kind of fun. It was so much more than that to me. There was a lot to it, like in the sense of like having terrible parents, having parents that aren't present, dealing with trauma from that kind of stuff, as well as growing as an individual and learning how to deal with family and finding your love. And then I love the like way that they talk about each other. The romance is good, the smut is good. There's just a little bit of smut, and I loved the male character in this especially. It's just a great book. The next one that has been a big surprise for me was The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. I listened to this on audio in February, and I love this book. I don't have the physical copy, which I honestly should get it because I loved it so much. It was 5 stars. I just didn't realize that she was such a good writer. Like I knew it was her diary, but she wrote her diary as if it's a story. Like she basically was like telling her story of her life and what she was experiencing through the Holocaust. And it's different than the other World War II books you would read, at least the ones that I've read, because it's the telling of her life as a young girl and what she's going through. And it starts like a little bit before they go into hiding, and then like once they're in hiding, and how she's annoyed with her parents, she's annoyed with the people she lives with, like how she wants to find love, how she wants to be a writer someday, like all these different things. And she really writes as if she's a writer. Like I wish that she got the chance to write books because I think she would have been an amazing author. And the story is just so interesting. It's so good. I will definitely read that book again someday. I highly recommend reading it or listening to the audiobook. And then at the end, they also talked about like what happened to all of them, like where they went, if they passed away, what camps they went to, things like that. So it was really sad, but it was really, really good at the same time. Also, I just realized our laundry is in the background. It's been hanging there to dry, so sorry about that. Okay, next category is a book that made me cry. I have 2 for this category because I couldn't decide, because these both made me cry a lot. So first we're gonna do A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is the 3rd book in the ACOTAR series, and I cried so much at the end. Like just so many tears were shed. This book is much more about the war of everything that is going on. You get to see a lot of different characters, and there's just some deaths, and there's some heartbreak, and there's so many different things that happen at the end of this book. It's pretty wild. It's literally a wild ride. So yeah, this book made me sob. And then the other book that made me cry a lot was Where the Red Fern Grows. This book a lot of people read whenever they're in school, like in like 3rd grade, and I never read that book, and my roommate says it's one of his favorite books, and so I read it and I definitely cried. It's about a young boy who wants to have hunting dogs. I can't think of what they're called, like hound dogs or whatever, and he works really, really hard to be able to get them. He gets these dogs and they become his best friends. They're like his whole life. He loves them to death. They're just like a huge part of his life and something that means a lot to him. And the relationship is beautiful. The way he talks about his dogs is beautiful. Like, I love it so much. And obviously the sad part is, I'm not going to say any spoilers, but like you would assume it's like a book about dogs. So like, oh no, that's terrifying. You know, like you don't want to be sad about a book about dogs. And it was different than I expected it to be though. Like it didn't end the way I thought it would. It was so beautiful. I love that book. I can't believe that teachers make like the little kids read that book. I feel like make like 7th and 8th graders read it at least, but I can see why they still have them read it, in the sense of like, it's just a really beautiful book. And I do like that, even though it's obviously for like young kids, it's very easy to read, of course, because it's like the characters are named like Pa and Ma or Pop or whatever it is. And then like, there's not many names to like really think about. It's really mostly about the boy and his dogs. Okay, this is the most beautiful book you have either bought or received this year. First, I just had to show this again. The Paradise Problem is so pretty. I love like the letters are raised. I love the matte feeling of it. The colors are so beautiful. It's perfect for summer. Like I love the way it looks. But the one I really want to highlight for this is Stephen King, well, Billy Summers by Stephen King. And this also has that matte feel to it. The letters are also raised, but like in here they have, it's like just a different texture, which is really cool. And then the gold is beautiful. I love the look of this book. When I was reading it, I just like pet it and stared at it all the time. I also loved this book itself. Like reading this book, I highly recommend reading this book. It is not a scary book by Stephen King. It is a book about a lot of different things. It kind of feels like 2 stories in one, really. It's a book about love. It's a book about death. It's a book about hardships, and I don't even know how to explain all of what it's about, basically. But it's about a serial killer who is going to do his last assignment, and it doesn't go as he planned, basically. It's a wild ride. Highly recommend this book. I also cried reading it. My favorite author that I have found so far this year is Abby Jimenez. These are 3 of her 4 books that she's written more than 4. I have read 4 books of hers and I only have 3 of them. But she has written more books than that. This is the trilogy that I read in June, and I loved this trilogy. Overall, I'd give it 5 stars for the whole trilogy. But Abby Jimenez's writing is so well done. It's like easy to read, easy to understand, but she uses complex enough words that it's like you don't feel like you're reading a young adult book. But she also talks about deep things like different trigger warnings and things like that. I won't really go into all the details. A lot of the time it's like problems with parents, whether it's the death of a parent or like an overbearing parent or an abusive parent or relationship, and also just like dealing with anxiety and things like that. And all characters deal with something different. Some have different medical issues, and so she touches on really deep topics, but it doesn't feel like a super deep book. Like it feels like a really still good story. It's not like super lighthearted, but it's also not like super deep. So it's a really good mixture. I love her writing. It's amazing. Then we have a book that I predict will be 5 stars, which is The Silent Patient. I've heard so many great things about this book. I am excited to read it. I'm hoping to still read it sometime this summer. And I love mystery thrillers. I love like murder podcasts and true crime, and I love all that kind of stuff. I love the fast-paced reads. I like to feel like something is intense and insane, and it's just like unexpected and twists and turns, and like I love that kind of stuff. So I am super excited to read this, and it sounds like that will check those boxes. Then we have books that I'm looking forward to reading this year. So first off, I'm gonna do Better Than the Movies. I am super excited to read this because I've only heard good things about this book. People who thought they wouldn't even like this book rated it 5 stars, and then plenty of other people have rated it super well. And then the second book comes out in October. I think it's October 1st. And it's called Nothing Like the Movies, I think. And so I'm waiting to read this till closer to the time that one will come out, so then I can read this one and then just go straight into the next one. And then the last book that I am looking forward to reading is a series. I am looking forward to reading the Dune series. After I watched Dune Part 2 this year, I had already seen Dune Part 1. I just loved it so much. I was like, I can't wait however many more years to see the next Dune movie. So I was like, I'm going to buy the first book and I'm going to get started, which I haven't read it yet just because I wanted to get through some of the other books that I had. I was excited about those, but this one I feel like is going to be one of the first ones I read in the fall because I'm just so ready and I can't wait to read the whole series. And that is all for this video. I hope that you guys have enjoyed and maybe you got some book recommendations out of this, or maybe you're like, oh, I don't want to read that book after hearing that. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you're doing well and that you take care. Thanks for watching. Bye.